All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. You are now watching A Deeper PTE. I'm your host, PTE, also known as Permission to Exist. Today is Sunday, October 13th, 2024, and we are getting ready to talk about just all the craziness that has been going on. As of late, it's so back to back, so nonstop. It feels like we can't catch a break, coming or going. But I will say that I'm one of the more fortunate ones. And based on the poll, whoops, based on the poll that's running in the background, it looks like most of you were among the more fortunate ones. I do see a couple of people were affected by the recent storms. Most of you weren't at 65%. 29% so far, no, but someone I know was affected by the recent storms. So, whether you were affected or know someone who was affected, I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope you're recovering as best as you can. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in in our lifetimes, I don't think. I could be wrong about that, but when I just kind of reflect on everything that's been going on, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Obviously, we've seen storm damage before, we've seen hurricanes come through before, tornadoes, ice storms. We've seen all of these things before, but never anything quite like this. So, we're going to talk about it, and this is going to be a little bit more loosely structured than maybe you're used to and than maybe you're accustomed to, perhaps from my other channel. But we're just going to talk through all this because I would be remiss to not address it. Things are just completely insane weather wise. We're also going to talk about this BioLab fire that happened in the Atlanta, Georgia area, specifically Conyers, but the chemical cloud from this thing is so big, it has basically wandered all over the city. And apparently, it has started to reach other states. So, we're going to talk about that too. And then, really, truly, I think the point of this show is going to come closer to the end. But we're just kind of recapping, regrouping. How is everyone doing? Hello to everyone in the chat. Were any of you specifically affected? I would imagine that anyone who was hit the hardest, like in North Carolina or Tennessee, or even the Carolinas or Georgia, probably wouldn't be on this stream tonight unless they found their way to some Wi Fi or some internet connection. But I imagine that they're probably not here because they have no way of being here, because pretty much everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Power went out, cell towers went down, roads blocked, more than blocked. Some of these roads were completely destroyed. Yeah, it certainly seems that way, doesn't it? Chat says Babylon is falling. The revolution will not be televised. Listen, it certainly seems like Babylon is falling, doesn't it? Hence the name of this live stream. Life is getting dangerous, okay? So I want to start off this stream with a story that I'm actually going to circle back to towards the end of the show, okay? So when Helene was approaching, we were aware of it. So for those of you who don't know, I live in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area. So I had seen on the weather maps many days in advance that they were tracking this storm straight up through, basically straight up through Georgia and continuing north, right? Because I make it a point to kind of try to stay aware of what's going on in my surroundings. I don't think it's a conscious thing. I think it's more of a passive thing. But I spend so much time on Twitter, also known as X, and you can follow me there at Exist Permission. At Exist Permission. Whenever I go dark on YouTube, I'm probably very active on Twitter. So you can find me there. But kind of being on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram all day, checking the news sites, it's probably more of a habit and an addiction than it is something I'm doing consciously, but it is something I do every day. So I was very, very aware that the storm was predicted to track straight up through Georgia, right? Now, where I work probably a good hour away from where my corporate office actually is. And that matters. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But when I saw that the storm was tracking up in our direction, I told my boss, hey, I'm going to work from home today. I'm not driving in. There's a storm headed this way, and I'm just not feeling comfortable driving in. Her response with her goofy self was, well, it's not going to really hit until Friday morning, so you should be good. Now, I think it's important to note here that my boss doesn't live here. She lives in another state. And that's very, very important because the state in where she lives, or the state in which she lives, is not quite as populated. There's not a lot of population density where she lives. It's almost kind of rural. Y'all know I can't say that word. I discovered another word I can't say, by the way, and that word is brewery. You know, where they make beer, where they brew beer. I can't say brewery either. So I can't say rural and I can't say brewery. All right. And it's really sad because I try really hard. But anyway, I believe she lives more rural and far less dense population wise, far less traffic, far less going on than the Atlanta, Georgia area. But she thinks she knows everything, though. And she obviously thinks she knows what's best for me in my life. But that's another show, different topic altogether, probably a different channel altogether. Thank you, Red. Chat says rural is hard to wrap your mouth around. Yes, it is. It's a very difficult word to say, okay? But anyway, she says, well, it's not going to hit till Friday morning. So I think you'll be okay. And I told her, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not risking my life and my property to come to an office that's almost an hour away from my house to sit on virtual calls all day. Like, to me, that was just completely insane. Right. So I didn't do it. And I'm actually really glad I didn't because on that particular day, there were so many accidents in this area, as if there aren't already, right? On just a normal day, on a clear, sunny day, there's tons of accidents. But knowing that a hurricane was coming, we had just had some heavy rain and a really nasty storm the day before. So the roads were really slick and really wet. People were panicking, freaking out. I just didn't want to be out there in the mix. And there was no need for me to be out there because everything I had to do that day was virtual. So as long as I had the internet, I could still work. So I didn't go. And I know it pissed her off, but I don't care. And we're going to get to that in a minute. So I just wanted to kind of start the show off with that story, and we will reconnect it later. But I didn't go. And it's crazy because this, and I'm talking about Helene, not Milton. Milton didn't really come near us. It's Helene that I'm talking about. But what's crazy is here she is brushing it off like, oh, you'll be fine. It's not really going to hit until Friday morning. Meanwhile, I'm thinking in my mind, I need to run to the store, just pick up a couple last minute things. You know, I need, there's a lot of prep work I want to do. I need to charge things just in case we lose power. So, no, I don't want to be away from my house when a freaking hurricane is coming. And it's unusual for it to hit close to this area anyway. That's already an oddity. No, no, the answer is no, right? And it turned out to be one of the worst hurricanes in United States history. One of the worst. I think it's up there. It's either in the top 5 or it is very close to one of the top 5 worst hurricanes that we've ever had. And I personally think it's going to end up being the worst because when you look at what happened to North Carolina and obviously the other states that got hit as well, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, there were parts of the Atlanta area that flooded. Buckhead flooded. And I mean flooded, like water up to the roof of cars. It's insane to see the pictures of it. So it ended up being one of the worst hurricanes ever. And you want me to drive almost an hour to an office to sit on virtual calls all day. We're going to come back to that point. But I wanted to start off with that story because I think it's important because I trusted my instincts that day. And while my particular area didn't get hit that bad, we have seen what it has done to other people, right? So who is she to assume, oh, everything is going to be fine? And it actually ended up being one of the worst hurricanes in history, right? So before we get into that, I'm sure most of you are aware. Well, oh, before I go there, chat says hurricanes spawn tornadoes. I never knew that until my fam and I went through Sandy. They absolutely spawn tornadoes. And I'm not sure if you guys saw how many tornadoes Milton spawned in Florida. I think they said they set a record for most tornado warnings, either in the history of the state or something like that. They set a record for tornado warnings. I think there was 140 of them at one point in time, something like that. It was insane. Um, and the hurricane, excuse me, the tornadoes themselves were massive. Let me see if I can find a picture really quick and pull it up for you, especially for those of you who don't live in the states. Milton tornadoes. Let's see if we can find some pictures. Oh, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, let me share my screen. Welcome everyone in the chat. Great to see you. I hope you're all safe and doing well. And I thought I had my screen shared, but I guess not. Let's share it again. Boom. So, this is one of the tornadoes from Milton. Look at that thing. That is insanity. That is crazy. That's crazy. So, we've got a lot going on weather-wise. Let's talk very briefly about North Carolina. I'm sure you all have seen lots of pictures, lots of videos, lots of images. Y'all, it is a complete mess up there. It is a mess. And I think what blows my mind the most, and I'm going to show you some of the pictures from that, is that this thing the river washed out whole sections of highway and whole sections of road, which I did not even know was possible, y'all. I didn't even know that it was possible. I never in a million years pictured a storm picking up the ground, breaking up the concrete, and washing it away. Never. Like, I've never pictured anything like that. The mudslides that came out of this, which is what dislodged a lot of these highway systems, I think they said I-40 is shut down indefinitely because the literal highway is missing. Huge gorges, just chunks taken out of this thing. Let's watch this video really quick. I'm going to mute it, hoping that copyright won't mess with me too badly. Let me see. Can I make this bigger? So it says, this is the same road after Hurricane Helene. Pay attention to the small yellow house. Y'all, there's like a new river. Like, I cannot get over this. All right. So it's, I think it just replayed itself. So that's definitely not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to look like that. So there's the yellow house. Let me see if I can pause this. Let me pause it. Yep. So let's back it up just a little bit. So the person who posted this video wants you to focus on this yellow house. So if you look closely, you see kind of like a yellow second story. There's a bottom story with what appears to be like a garage. Then there appears to be like a concrete driveway around it. And I'm guessing this is maybe a neighbor's house next to it, some neighboring houses. And I'm thinking there must be like a little road down here that we can't see from this point of view. Okay. So just take that in, take a good look. That's what it used to look like. Now let's look at what it looks like now. Just completely gone, y'all. The guardrail is gone. The road itself is gone. And there's like a brand new river running through here that I don't think was running through there before. Okay. Complete and total destruction and devastation. And then there's the yellow house. So let's look. Let's go back. So if you remember, there was like flat concrete little circular driveway and all that. There was a house right next to this little yellow house. It's gone. I think this is a mudslide that came down from the mountain, which I would be so scared to live in the mountains now. I wouldn't have lived there before. Apparently, we do, though. Apparently, Atlanta is kind of sort of the mountains, but we are in what's called the foothills. So basically the bottom of a mountain. We're at the base of the Appalachian mountain range. Okay? So anyway, even still, these are like the mountains. These are like the real mountains that these people live in. And mudslides are coming down, just washing it completely away. It's absolutely stunning. Stunning. Okay? I'm good. Chat says, "Just tuning in. Are you okay? That was one heck of a storm." I'm good. We got really lucky where I am. Um, and it's crazy because the next morning when my friends and I were texting each other, everyone's like, "Are you okay?" And we were like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine." Like, seriously, y'all, in my area, we've had stronger thunderstorms than what we experienced from Helene. So when we saw all this news starting to come out, we were shocked because we here in Georgia were expecting so much worse. And don't get me wrong, some parts of Georgia did get hit really hard. They flooded out. Um, but where we are, I've literally had stronger thunderstorms come through that knocked over trash cans, blew them down the street, blew some of my fabric flower pots, took them away forever, honey. I don't know where they went. The wind took them. All my flower pots are still there. The trash cans never tipped over. Um, so over here, it was almost like nothing happened. So when we saw all this, I was like, oh my God, this is insane. So let's look at some more. I know you guys have probably seen a lot of this stuff already. This one says, "This is the most terrifying debris flow video I've seen from the flooding in East Tennessee and Western North Carolina." I want to make sure you guys can still hear me too, because I muted my computer and it shouldn't mute my microphone, but you never know with tech. So just let me know if you guys can still hear me. I assume y'all would have said something by now if you couldn't, but I'm a little paranoid. So anyway, I'm going to keep going. Let's take a look at another video. So this is a debris flow, which I didn't even know what that was. I mean, look at this. Just violent and insane. Like, you can't outrun this. You can't escape this. And this is why so many people were injured or lost their lives because one second it was fine, next thing you know, this massive flood of mud and debris is washing down the side of a hill. Let me make sure y'all can still hear me. Yep. Okay, perfect. So, how do you escape this? How do you outrun this? I think one of the scariest things about this is the fact that some of these people, they will never find, y'all. There's so many missing people in this area, and the reason they're missing is because a lot of them were in their house when something like this came flying down the hill. And understand that these people live in the mountains, so they're not expecting anything like this. If you're from Florida or live in Florida or Georgia or the Carolinas, even Texas, you come to kind of get used to hurricanes and things of that nature. And I think that's actually one of the dangers is because often the news will tell you, hey, this is going to be bad. It's going to be strong. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. People get all prepared. They evacuate and then nothing happens. And when that keeps happening over and over and over again over the years, you kind of start to develop a certain type of complacency, really, because you don't think it's going to be for real. So imagine living in the mountains in the Carolinas and a hurricane's coming. You're probably thinking, well, we'll get some wind, we'll get some rain, but no big deal. Nothing like this. Nothing like this. So, and I really correct. Chat says no one in the mountains expected that mudslide. And it's been mudslides all over. landslides all over. And on top of that, um, they keep going, y'all. So I didn't know that. So the mud doesn't just come in and then stop. It keeps flowing, like the land almost turns into a river. It's insane. Some of these people they will never find because they're up underneath all this mud and in at the bottom of the river. I hate to say it, but it's true. And they know it. I'm not saying anything they don't already know, but they know that there's some of these people they'll never find. Or they'll find them many years from now when someone is doing like a dig project, they'll find them, which is just horrific. Okay. So there's that. Also, I wanted to share something I learned about this with you guys that you may have already known, but it was new to me. So I figure if it was new to me, it might be new to someone else. But when all this was happening, they kept talking about flash floods, flash flood warning, right? And I was like, what exactly is a flash flood? Seems obvious enough, right? But I wasn't entirely sure. So I wanted to look it up. So I did. And it actually kind of scared me because a flash flood is exactly what it sounds like. One second, everything is dry. The next second, you're completely up to your ankles, then your knees in water. So, how does that happen? Flash floods happen when things like drainage are clogged, right? With leaves and sticks and debris and litter and you name it. Drains that normally are supposed to let the water flow through at like a certain rate. Okay. So, what happens is when it rains heavily or there's a lot of water that comes into the system, sometimes those clogs come undone and all the water comes rushing out at once. That's a flash flood. So, you know how sometimes you see people stranded in their cars in the middle of these flood waters, and people are very quick to say things like, oh, they're so stupid. Oh, why would they try to drive through that? Oh, they're dumb. They don't drown, turn around, things like that. What they're not telling you is sometimes they weren't driving through water. Sometimes they were actually driving on a dry street and that water came in suddenly. Suddenly. That's the part they're not telling you. This is part of the reason that the news absolutely irks me because they do not tell you the whole story. They just want to make it seem like there was somebody with the pride and the big head who was like, "Oh, I can make it through this water," and then they got stuck. Sometimes that happens, yes, but that is not always the case. Sometimes they were on dry street and the flood came in suddenly, just like that. One second you're driving and it's clear and dry, and the next second you're surrounded by water. That is a flash flood. And that is why they're so dangerous. So I just wanted to share that because if you're not affected by this kind of stuff, then you maybe have never even thought about it before. Like I hadn't. I've heard flash flood my whole life, but I never knew what it actually meant. That's what it means, y'all. Okay. Chat says I had a branch fall through my back windshield here in Georgia during Hurricane Helene. That's awful. I hope that you're okay. And I hope that you're able to get that fixed quickly, which I imagine the body shops are going to be very busy for the next couple of months. So I hope you're able to get that repaired in a timely fashion. Also, something I learned is that a car can get waterlocked, meaning once the water reaches a certain level in your engine, the car is totaled. There's no there's no repairing it, and it has something to do with the pistons. So the pistons need air in them to fire, to produce, I guess, the energy to get the engine to turn over. I'm not a car person, so forgive me. But basically, once the water gets into those pistons, it's a wrap. Your car is total. Okay. So a lot of people's cars got totaled in this. A lot of people's cars got washed away. They don't even know where their cars are. Um, oh goodness. Chat says there's a community of people who live on the mountain in campers and tents. They're off grid for a variety of reasons. Some harvest ginseng and guard their plot. They were washed away. That's horrible. Horrible. I cannot get over how much the river rose. That is scary to me. And that's actually going to let me write that down so I don't forget. Because I got my little notes in front of me. Let me move this keyboard. I don't know why I had it like that in the first place. Let me put it in front of me. There we go. Now I can type. Okay. I cannot get over how high, like, it's very frightening to me, and I'll tell you why. Because we're all surrounded by water, right? Even if you're landlocked, you're still theoretically surrounded by water because there's a river or a lake somewhere, a creek somewhere, right? And what this is telling me is that it's almost like they can pump water out themselves. What am I trying to say? It's almost like, it's almost like a reverse water faucet. So you know how normally the water faucet flows down into the drain and out into the plumbing system? It's almost like there's a reverse faucet where the water can push back up through the system. And that's very concerning. And it's very troubling. I read something earlier today that said 3.4 trillion gallons of water fell during these two storms. 3.4 trillion gallons of water. That is almost an ocean. That's like an ocean fell over the southern states. It's insane, right? Part of the reason we're doing this show on this channel and not the other one is because I want to get into some deeper theories that aren't conventional. We try to keep permission to exist conventional. We try to keep her above the law, okay? Over here, we're renegades and outlaws. And so I want to share some of my theories with you. And one of my theories is that I think, first of all, I think the South is going to go underwater, but Florida is definitely on its way out. And I base that on the fact that so much sand was deposited by both Helene and Milton. Let me pull that picture up too while we're talking. Welcome, everyone. And I've never seen that either. I've seen the roofs blown off. I've seen, houses destroyed by the winds. I've seen that. I've seen all that. I've seen piers destroyed. Sand deposits, Hurricane Milton, Florida. Like, I've seen all that, right? We know what destruction looks like, but there is no destruction quite like having your whole entire home, street, and neighborhood covered in sand, you guys. Like, how the hell do you ever dig out of that? How do you dig out of that? Okay. Yes, Florida is getting washed away. It's not so much that Florida is getting washed away. It's that this exact thing is what I believe is going to happen. More and more sand is just going to get deposited until it completely buries it. And then the water will just kind of rise up to meet it, basically. I have never, ever in my life seen sand deposited as a result of these storms. And the same thing happened in the Carolinas, but with mud. And the thing about mud and sand is that they do not melt. So unlike snow, which we've seen snow do this, right? Snow will eventually melt. It will. It might produce a lot of water when it melts, but snow will eventually melt. Sand does not melt, nor does mud. They don't melt. So they are just there. All that sand is in the AC system, in every nook and cranny. And here's the other thing about it, y'all. They can't just scoop this sand up and put it back on the beach. They actually have to sift through it first. Take away the word deposit, see if that helps. Sand, Hurricane Milton, Florida. I want to show y'all some of these pictures. They can't just scoop this sand up and put it back on the beach, right? Because that seems like the easy enough solution, right? They can't do that. And here's why. A lot of this sand has glass shards in it. other pieces of debris that are dangerous to like the foot, because people walk around on the beach barefoot. So other pieces of debris. Some of the sand is flat out toxic, meaning it has chemicals and other things in it that are not supposed to really come in contact with human beings or other life forms. So they have to take all this sand, take it somewhere else, sift it, test it, clean it, then take it back to the beach. Like, y'all, this is as the kids are saying now, Florida is cooked. Cooked. Look at all the sand, y'all. I mean, I've never seen anything like this before. It's almost like the hurricane stirred up the bottom of the ocean and brought it with it and just dropped it right in Florida. And then in the Carolinas, it's mud. I mean, look at these pictures. This is somebody's living room. That's sand, y'all. Absolutely. Chat says the sand reminds me of Kemet, which is now Egypt and the Sahara Desert. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you wonder what's up under all of this sand. And I think they've tried to look. I think they've used like sonar and like other type of like sound wave machines to try to like see what's up underneath all this sand. Some people say the Great Pyramids are the tops of something else. So like what we can see is nothing more than the top of a larger structure that's like miles tall, many, many miles tall. Just a theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it's very interesting. But they say that some people theorize that the pyramids are the very, very tippy top of super large, long, tall structures. So it makes you wonder what's up underneath all that sand? Because if this can happen here in our modern day, who's to say it hasn't happened before? Everywhere that we call a beach or a desert is nothing more than a place that got covered up by sand by some major storm they had. Chat says no flood insurance in those mountain towns. Exactly, because why would you need it? Who would ever think the river would rise that high? And to me, the way my mind works is if the river rose that high once, it can probably rise that high again. And it probably will rise that high again. It's going to keep doing it. Yes, some of that sand and the mud, especially, is overflowing with sewage. They have no water, you guys. Up in the Carolinas, there's no water. There's not even dirty water running out of the faucets. There's no water because some of them got their water station destroyed, completely destroyed. So they're out of water. They have no water, no power. Some of them have no cell service. Some of them are completely trapped up on the mountain because they can't get out because either the road itself has completely washed away or there are so many trees down that they actually are having to cut their way out. So they have to have a chainsaw already that I assume runs on battery power because where are you getting the power from? And they're having to chainsaw these giant trees, cut them up and push them out of the way just so they can access the road that they might have. Like, this is insane. This is crazy. So this is what some folks are out here going through right now. And my heart sincerely goes out to them. And it just really put me in kind of like a thought process of like, yeah, life is getting a little bit dangerous. I think it always has been, but I think it's getting more dangerous for many different reasons. Obviously, our weather is not pleased with us. I don't get into the whole climate change discussion because it causes a lot of back and forth and political breakdown and mental and emotional breakdowns. But what I will say is that it is clear our weather is not pleased with us. It's quite clear that Mother Nature is not happy. She's not happy. Um, and I imagine that this is going to continue to get worse. It's clear that we have not built properly. We have not built things to withstand Mother Nature when she gets going. She doesn't care about your asphalt and your concrete. Clearly, this was some road. I mean, it would be nice and very helpful to know what this looked like before this. So because I've never been there and I've never seen the before, I don't know. But I know it's not supposed to look like this. I know it's not supposed to look like this. So, I mean, how do you even come back from this? I saw one tweet that said, I think this is Chimney Rock, by the way, but I could be wrong. Chimney Rock, North Carolina. I saw one tweet that said, they were working on putting the river back where it's supposed to be. And I wanted to say, honey, ain't no putting the river back where it's supposed to be. What are you talking about? What in the world are you talking about? Putting it back where it's supposed to be. I think it is where it wants to be and where it's going to be. You have a new river now. Like, I don't know how wise it would be to rebuild over something like this because it's going to do it again. It's already showed you once what it can do, and I personally believe it's going to do it again. Like, I feel like a severe rainstorm could cause these issues because it's got to make you wonder, like y'all, I've been looking into all kinds of stuff over the past couple of days, and it's got to make you wonder, why did it take, why, how, like, why, how did this happen, right? And from what I've been able to discern from my really limited research, but research nonetheless, is that basically these are mountains, right? They may not look like mountains, but they are. So they are elevated. And when that much rain fell, and they had some rainstorms a couple days before too. So the ground was already saturated. And when that much water falls into the system, it goes downhill. And under normal circumstances, the lakes, the streams, the rivers, the ponds can absorb that water and then they kind of push it out through whatever little connected system they have. Ultimately, the water is trying to make its way back to the ocean. That's where it's trying to go. It's trying to go back to the ocean. But when that much water falls, it can only do it but so fast, basically. It can only push this much water out of itself, but so fast. And then eventually the volume of it just takes over and just breaks everything into pieces in its path. There were several dams that failed. I was even looking up, like, what are dams for exactly? Like, I went fourth grade, okay? I went back to fourth grade science class. Obviously, I know what a dam is. It holds back water, but why? Like, for what? Several reasons. One reason is to actually purposely create a reservoir. So sometimes they build dams to have like a water supply for a certain area. So they do it on purpose to capture the water, and they use that water for different purposes in their cities and surrounding communities. That's one reason they build a dam. Another reason they build a dam is to control the flow of a river. So they may not want the river to rush downstream. So they build these dams to kind of like slowly let the water out. So it slowly goes into the river and they kind of sort of have control over it. So then, like, for example, if it's been a dry season, they can just open the dam a little bit, let a little bit more water in. It's a way of kind of controlling the river, which seems like it may have been a bad idea to begin with. Um, but it works when it works. But when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. And you have situations like these where when the dam fails, all that water comes rushing in at once, and it's catastrophic typically for neighborhoods and communities and cities. Here's one of the mudslides. I don't know, I don't know exactly where this is, but good Lord. I mean, look on the left side of the picture. Like, imagine just driving along the road and all of a sudden trees, mud, dirt, and everything just comes right out into your path, and the river is rising on the other side. Absolutely. Chat says water is an extremely powerful force. You know what song has been in my head this whole time since this started happening is that song by Aretha Franklin. Um, I think the name is Don't Trouble the Water. But no, it's called hold on, Don't Trouble the Water. Leave it alone. Let it be. Still waters run deep. Maybe it's called Still Waters Run Deep. And it's probably not even that. It's one of my favorite songs. But anyway, that song has been on my head on repeat. Don't trouble the water. Leave it alone. Why don't you? Why don't you? Let it be. Whew. This picture right here troubles me, and let me tell you why. Because in my mind, in all these years, I thought the ground was much more stable than this. Oh, this is I-40 East. Okay. I thought the ground was much more stable than this. I thought the ground was much more secure than this. I thought that the trees and the tree roots and things of that nature hold the ground together. Like I thought that the root system kind of held the ground in place. So for those of you who might garden, if you've ever gardened before, or if you garden currently, you know that like once a plant has like essentially died, for lack of better words, when you pull what's left of it out of the pot, a lot of times it'll come out all in one piece. And it's really cool because you can see the root system has basically formed completely around the boundaries of the pot. So when you pull the plant out, it takes everything with it because the roots have formed almost like a network that keep the ground in place. So I promise you, I thought that's what was happening at a larger scale, like in these forests and things of that nature. I did not realize the ground was this unstable or could be this unstable. Ooh, chat says structures were built for the levels of natural disasters we used to get. These phenomena are just greatly increasing in intensity. Absolutely. Like, if there has never been a time for more innovation, now is the time to really, really step up innovation because this is not sustainable. Because I was even thinking about this, y'all, like, even if they try to rebuild all these houses and businesses and things, the amount of materials they're going to need, because the things that got washed away, some of them have been there for decades. So those are supplies and materials that were procured many, many years ago, put in place, and they've been in place for decades until now. So now you're basically trying to rebuild whole entire cities and highway networks and power supply networks. You're going to need a lot of material: wood, wires, plastic, nails, labor. Who is going to rebuild all this stuff that took years to build to begin with? You see what I'm saying? Like, my mind is just spinning. That's why I said this is going to be a relatively unstructured show, because my mind is all over the place with this thing. Like, it already took years for this stuff to be built, and in 1 or 2 days it was completely washed away. It's not going to be replaced quickly. Who is going to rebuild all this stuff? And I would be lying to y'all if I said that I haven't been looking into construction jobs. I'm like, because I know they got to be paying, and they're going to need workers for the next 20 to 30 years to try to fix this. That's how long it's going to take, y'all. 20 to 30 years is what I estimate it'll take to recover from all of this. Just simply due to the the manpower that's going to be needed. They were saying in some videos I was watching that property lines have been redrawn, that the topography has been rearranged. Like, the river is going in new places now. The ground that was once there has now officially washed away. So like the remapping, the recharting, like the land surveying, the materials, the trust, because who wants to live here now? I wouldn't want to live up in here now. I don't trust the ground anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I literally don't trust the ground anymore. because it can just slip out from underneath you, which is insane. And this takes me back. Some of you who've been around for a while will remember my cabin in the woods story. Long story short, it was a team building activity, overnight stay in the North Georgia mountains in a cabin in the woods. I went, I didn't like it. It made me uncomfortable. I left. That's the short version of the story, right? And I just remember driving down that mountain because we were probably about 7 or 8 miles up, which may not seem like a very far distance, but it is when it's the middle of the night and the slopes on the side of this mountain were incredibly steep with no guardrails, and you could see down, and like your car is being slowly pulled forward by gravity. So you're like on the brake the entire time because you don't want to go too fast and like take a curve too quickly and end up down the side of one of these mountains. And I was just completely freaked out from top to bottom, but I got out of there though. And now seeing this, I'm like, girl, I don't know what was speaking to you that night saying, get the hell out of here. But I'm glad I did because this could happen. The land could just fall out. And it makes me wonder, like, is the ground exhausted? Is it tired? Is it just giving way? Like, can it simply not take anymore? Has the earth been very tolerant up until this point? Like, I will tolerate you cutting down all these trees. I will tolerate you compacting the dirt and paving over me. I will tolerate all this traffic. I will tolerate all this pollution coming through. I will tolerate all the weight coming through day in and day out, 24/7, 365 for multiple years on end. And it's almost like the ground just like, oh God, like it couldn't hold it anymore. Chat says much of our national infrastructure should have been reinforced many years ago. Unfortunately, this hasn't been prioritized as it should have been, at least not up until recently. That is sad and very, very scary. Very, very scary. Chat says they've cut down most of the old growth forests. I'm guessing 100 to 200 years ago, things maybe wouldn't have been so bad. I suppose, because this is crazy. Right? So what else? I mean, look at this, y'all. This is a highway. This is a piece of a highway. All right. So let me see what else I got up here for y'all. I know there's other stuff I want to show you. Yes, indeed. Okay. So let's transition a little bit. So we just kind of went over the damage and destruction, which is indescribable. Like if I lived there, I would just pick it up and I would just leave, which is almost impossible to do though, right? Because like if you're a homeowner and your whole house just got washed down a river and the place where it sat, you may not even be able to find it because it's not there anymore. And the only way you can find it is perhaps by GPS, because I imagine the GPS system stayed intact because it's technically not here local. It's like up in the satellites or whatever. So the GPS might be able to tell you where your house once was, but it's not there anymore. So do you just walk away? And if so, what do? You get a payout? Like, does homeowners insurance kick in? Like, how does that work? Do you still even have a mortgage? Like, would they have the nerve to bill you for a mortgage when your whole house just washed down the river? I see it's not as simple as just packing up and walking away. Some of them don't even have cars anymore. So anyway, but if you could leave, I would just leave. There's no way you could get me to go back. But I want to transition now to a situation that happened, and this is kind of sort of the point of the show. Actually, no, before we do that, I'm sorry. I want to do something else, and then I'll close with that thought, because there is another thing I wanted to bring up to you guys, because the topic of tonight's show is life is getting kind of dangerous, okay? Now, some of you may or may not have heard about this, so allow me to be the first to inform you if you didn't know, but probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a fire at a BioLab in Conyers, Georgia, which is part of the greater Atlanta area. And it's probably about, I want to say maybe Conyers is maybe like 20 minutes from the city center, something like that. Anyway, a massive fire took place, and the picture that you're looking at now is a picture of the smoke plume that came off of that fire. And I do want you to take note of the variety of colors. We have kind of an ash gray. We've got like a cotton gray, red. We have a blackish gray and kind of different variations in between. And it would be beautiful if it weren't so damn toxic, because what's on fire in this picture is chlorine and chlorine compounds, because apparently what they make in this lab are chemicals for pools. So the swimming pool that you like to go to every summer, when they put chlorine in it, there's a great chance that this lab manufactures that chlorine. Well, what we're looking at is all that chlorine and other compounds on fire. Now, this is important because it has created a major problem in the greater Atlanta area, and it's starting to actually reach surrounding states because the chlorine smoke itself is still off gassing even today, October 13th. I think this happened on the 2nd or 3rd, something like that. It's still off gassing today. The county that this happened in, its residents were evacuated initially. Then they were allowed to come home, but they were told, stay indoors, keep your windows and your doors closed, and turn off your air conditioner. But it's fine though. It's fine. Nothing to see here, right? Now, they've been tracking this chlorine cloud, and it is hovering around this area. And based on which direction the wind blows is where the chlorine cloud goes. And it's not evaporating, it's not dissipating like it should. It's actually kind of hanging out. So, me and everyone else I know who lives in this general area, because they put a 50-mile radius on this thing, and I'm definitely within that 50-mile radius. They said, listen, yes, we're detecting chlorine in the air, but they're at levels that are relatively safe. And all me and all of my friends are like, great. Well, we're going to turn into zombies. And personally, I've made peace with that. If I zombify, I will do my best to go live. And I'll even come on camera as a full-blown zombie. Okay. If I have my wits about me, if I even know what I'm doing. Okay. But we've accepted that we're pretty much all going to die because this is burnt chlorine and other compounds that are not evaporating. They're just hanging out in the air. I just saw it. Where'd it go? It said, sheesh, people's lungs. Exactly. Eyes, lungs, throat. They said anyone with heart problems or any type of respiratory problems are probably going to experience issues. Now, where I am, I don't smell chlorine per se, but I also have multiple air purifiers in my house and have for a while. However, when I travel into the city, the closer I get to the city center, my eyes start burning. And initially I'm like, oh man, I think I got makeup in my eyes. But then I'm like, oh, I don't think that's makeup. This is that chlorine gas that's going to kill us all or zombify us, one or the other. And we're just like, we can't catch a break. We just got a storm. Now we've got this crazy chlorine gas hanging out over our head, which is absolutely insane. Let me show you another angle of it. So there's another angle of, wow, this chemical plume that is floating around the city, right? I saw a report of a woman who lives in the Rockdale County area. She said she's a beekeeper. She said all of her bees died, which is not good. But also, my thought process is two things. One, when anything burns, you change the chemical structure of it. It is no longer the same chemical it once was, with maybe the exception of what, gold? I don't know. But pretty much anything else is once you burn it, you change the chemical structure of it. So please stop trying to act like, oh, this is just regular chlorine that you put in a pool. No, it's not. It's burned chlorine. We don't put chlorine smoke in swimming pools. We don't set chlorine on fire and then put it in the pool. It goes in there in a completely different format. So this is not the same. So there's that. But then here's my other thought, because it really hasn't rained since Hurricane Helene. If this cloud, this plume that is still off gassing, by the way, comes in contact with water, that's what caused the fire in the first place, which is completely insane, you guys. This was started because water got into, I guess, the chlorine mix. I don't know. And it started the fire, which is crazy ironic because chlorine goes into a swimming pool, which is water. But water came in contact with something and it set off this chemical reaction and started the fire, right? So anyway, what's going to happen when it rains again, guys? Anybody? Mom? Dad? What's going to happen when it rains? Are we all going to die? Is it going to poison our water supply? Y'all, we're going to die. Oh my gosh. I hope I know it when I'm like dying from this, because I promise y'all I'll come on camera, because I really do want y'all to see me at least once before this is all said and done. I would very much like for you all to see me and see who you've been talking to all this time. So if I like know I'm dying from this, I'll pop on camera and say, hey, just so you can say, wow, we finally saw PTE, right? Exactly. Chat says bleach rain, right? Mom, Dad, what's going to happen when it rains? I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to scorch the earth. I think it's probably going to kill almost all of the trees. Anything green and growing, I believe, is going to be killed. Any flora and fauna in our local lakes and rivers and river systems, I think are either going to be killed, or it's my understanding that like there's like a balance, right, in the lakes and the rivers and stuff. And the chlorine could possibly kill off all the good stuff, I guess, like the good algae, and allow the bad algae to overbloom. So we're probably going to have algae blooms, which is going to kill fish and turtles and frogs and insects and you name it. I'm very concerned with what will happen if like the rain from this comes in contact with our skin. Like what's going to happen there? It's definitely going to peel paint. Paint is peeling off of everything, cars, buildings, you name it. Paint's going to peel. But that's good because at least the graffiti will get washed away. And we're all going to die. And I personally have just made peace with that because, guys, we've had a time, okay? This life here, this has been a trip, okay? This has been one hell of a trip. So I'm totally at peace with dying from chlorine bleach rain or becoming a zombie, which I actually think might be kind of cool. But yeah, it hasn't really rained since this happened. Let me see when this happened. Let me get a date. Let me see if I can get a date. When did the BioLab fire happen? What was the date? Oh my goodness, it happened September 29th. I'm losing track of time. It happened Sunday, September 29th. The fire began around 5 a.m. when a malfunctioning sprinkler head sprayed water on a reactive chemical. Excuse me. About 17,000 people were forced to evacuate their homes. Several roads were closed, including Interstate 20 in both directions. The fire released a large plume of toxic smoke that was visible from 30 miles away. Residents reported difficulty breathing, and some described the smoke as thick and heavy. The fire was fully extinguished between 4 and 5 p.m., but it continues to off-gas even to this day. Chat says super zombie bleached PTE. I know that's right. Listen, I just hope I have some of my faculties about me when I zombify. Okay. Maybe they'll stop billing me when my bill collectors call. I'm like, look, I'm a zombie now, honey. I don't work anymore. I'm zombified from the chlorine chemical bleach spray. So why are you calling me? Zombies don't have bills. Zombies don't have social security numbers. Leave me alone. So anyway, that's going on. Oh, but there's more, guys. It gets more fun, right? So check this out. One of the authorities, one of the officials who is in charge or was in charge of managing this whole situation, he gave, I guess, a speech at a press conference regarding this very issue and then proceeded to drop dead on the Capitol steps. Okay. I'm going to prove it to you. Let me just pull it up. Give me 1 second. Yep. So just to kind of summarize and paraphrase, let me see. Rockdale County official dies. Let's just go with that. Yeah. Here we go. All right. And let's pull the screen back up for you because I like to show y'all things. So, a Georgia county official dies after giving testimony about a hazardous chemical plant fire. A Georgia county official died after he collapsed at the state capitol following testimony he gave during a hearing about a chemical plant fire. Kenny Johnson, the Rockdale County Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor, testified on Tuesday alongside business owners and leaders frustrated by the fire last month at the BioLab plant in Conyers, 25 miles east of Atlanta. In the hours after the fire, hazardous plumes spread into neighboring counties. According to the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, the 62-year-old Johnson complained of shortness of breath and subsequently collapsed in the hallway after the meeting, local news outlets reported. State Rep Viola Davis, who is a nurse, administered CPR until medical officials arrived and rushed him to Grady Memorial Hospital, where he died later that day. Kenny dedicated years as the Soil and Water Conservation District representative and as an environmental justice advocate, Davis said. His unwavering commitment to environmental justice and his testimony on the effects of the BioLab chemical fire on the community remain etched in our memories. I bet they do. Nothing etches into memory like one of your officials who's covering the exact issue that he just got through talking about drops dead in the hallway, you guys. I don't think y'all are hearing me. I understand what I'm saying to you. The man, I don't know what's going on with my computer. All these ads, it's like freezing it up. I want y'all to see what he looks like. The man dropped dead after he just got through attending a meeting about a chemical fire at a biolab. But you know, everything is fine. Everything is actually fine. And it's you guys who are panicking and making things worse than they have to be because they sent out a communication. Where is it? Here it is. I actually got this text on my phone too. It's a public safety alert they sent out to everyone. It said Georgia Emergency Management Agency, Homeland Security, on behalf of the Environmental Protection Division, local area emergency due to Rockdale County BioLab fire. The EPA is monitoring air quality for chlorine and related compounds. Chemical levels are unlikely to cause harm to most people. Well, thanks. I think when we got this text, that's when me and my friends really started texting heavily. And we were like, oh yeah, we're all going to die. If this is the text you're sending out, unlikely to cause harm to most people, oh, we're all going to die. because you haven't even bothered to clarify, well, then who will it cause harm to? And unlikely doesn't mean won't or not. Yeah, we're out of here. Okay? Um like this is insane. Okay? You're telling us that chlorine and related compounds are in the air, but it's all good. Don't panic. It's unlikely to cause harm to most people. When really, we're not even supposed to be breathing smoke. So, like, if there's a forest fire nearby, they really don't even want you breathing the smoke of trees and plants burning. But it's cool to breathe the smoke of chlorine and related compounds. And this is like a week or two before that official dropped dead. So, in my mind, he probably took a visit out there that morning, walked around, probably without a mask of any kind or any type of PPE, walked around, looked around, was like, "Yeah, it's fine. We'll either close this up or whatever." Went to the thing, gave his testimony, dropped dead at the freaking office, basically. So that's what we're going through here out in Georgia. And sometimes it just feels, like the world is falling apart. It really does. But it actually kind of leads me into my next segment that I was going to do earlier, but I decided this is how I'm going to kind of close the show. Um, as I shared at the start of this live stream, prior to Helene approaching, I told my boss I'm not coming in. And her response to me was, well, it's not really going to hit until Friday, so you should be okay. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm still not coming. And there was a point in time in my life where I would have been very scared to do that. I would have been very scared to defy the rules. I would have been very scared to tell my boss no. I would have been very afraid to advocate for myself and stand up for myself in that way. But I just decided, and this is what I actually told one of my coworkers, I cannot let other people make safety decisions for me. I can't. I can't, and I won't. And I want you all to adopt that same mentality going forward. I cannot let other people make safety decisions for me, and I won't. And the reason is because who on this earth is going to look out for me more than me? Who? Who is going to make sure I get home safely? Who is going to make sure I'm okay? Who is going to make sure I'm not stuck out on the highway, or car disabled on the side of the highway? And who's going to come pick me up? AAA? Who? Um, she doesn't even live here. So if I drove in that day, then got stuck somehow, is she going to come from her home state to come rescue me on the side of the road? No, she's not. Are my coworkers who don't live near me going to leave the safety of their home and leave their families behind to drive halfway across town to come rescue me from off the side of the road? No, they're not. They're going to tell me, hey, call the police, call the fire department, call AAA, call your insurance company, call a friend, phone a friend, call a neighbor. That's what they're going to tell me. They're not going to leave the safety and security of their homes to come rescue me. You're not going to fly in from out of state to come rescue me off the side of the road. You're not going to. So I have to make judgment calls and decisions for my safety. And I absolutely will not let a miniature psychopath dictate to me how I keep myself safe. And I told my dad that, and he was like, I'm proud of you. He was like, because you can get another job, but I can't get another daughter. And I was like, you know what? Thank you, Dad. That actually makes me feel better. Thank you. He's like, you can get another job. I can't get another daughter. Like, he is so right. You know? And I want you guys to adopt that. Thank you. Chat says, I am so proud of you, PTE. Thank you. And the truth of the matter is, it didn't get bad around my area until Friday, even though where I live, it didn't get hit that bad, but it didn't get bad in the Atlanta area until Friday. But that wasn't the point to me. To me, the point was these officials are already saying, stay off the road if you can. Please stay off the roads if you can. If you don't have to be out there, please don't be out there. We're trying to get things in place. We're trying to move people around. Don't be out there if you don't have to be out there. And you don't have to tell me twice, right? But it was less about that to me and more about the fact that people already can't drive in Atlanta, even when it's clear and perfect and beautiful outside. A lot of people are scared, and rightfully so. They have every right to be scared. And the roads were kind of slick and kind of gross already because we had a storm the day before that was totally unrelated to Helene, right? And I remember checking traffic that day. There were accidents all over the place. And the thing about really anywhere, truth be told, but the thing about the Atlanta area is all it takes is one accident to screw traffic for the next 3 or 4 hours. That's it. It doesn't take much. It really doesn't. And I didn't want to be caught up in that. I didn't want to be trying to leave my office and get home and be caught up in some ridiculous traffic as a result of an accident. And then the storm comes in. So here I am stuck on the highway while the hurricane is coming in. Like, I just wasn't interested in that because nobody knew how severe it was going to be. There's that. There's lots of trees in Atlanta lining the highways and whatnot, trees that are just ready to fall. Okay, there's that. We also have a sinkhole problem, which is a whole different conversation, different level of conspiracy theory to me. But we have a sinkhole problem here in the Atlanta area. And so all these things are running through my mind. And I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not. And I'm sure she's upset about it. And I actually don't care. And I'm ready to battle her on that. Because the first thing I would say to her was, you do realize that I refuse to come in on the heels of what is turning out to be one of the worst hurricanes in United States history. You do realize that, right? And the other thing I plan on saying to her is, I don't trust your survival instincts, and I don't. And that I think is what's actually going to cut her pretty deep. I don't trust your survival instincts, girl. I don't. And really, she's not a girl. She's a grown woman. She's probably 10 or 15 years older than me. So you should actually know better. But I don't trust your survival instincts. She's one of those people who is very much damn the torpedo, full speed ahead. She's one of those people who sees danger coming, but decides to push the limit anyway. For no other reason other than she is entirely inflexible in her mind and thinks that just because a plan has been set forth, we have to see that plan through to the end no matter what. And that's how a lot of people end up getting hurt, injured, or unalived when they continue to push forward in spite of the fact that there is danger. Okay. She's done this before. This is last year, or was it this year? It may have been this year. I can't even remember. It had to have been this year, actually. We had a class that we were planning for. And a lot of our classes, some of our employees fly into town to take them, right? But as always, I'm monitoring everything, the news, the weather, everything. And I said, hey, boss lady, ma'am, there's a snowstorm headed this way. It was some sort of winter weather coming this way. I was like, I think we should probably delay our class and maybe push it back a week because we don't want people coming here and getting stranded in Atlanta. Her response to me, oh, PTE, just because a little snow is coming doesn't mean that we cancel an entire class. I said, yeah, see, that's the whole thing about it. It's not just a little snow. 1 to 2 inches of ice shut down this entire city back in 2016 for 24 hours. Okay. We call it Snowmageddon. 1 to 2 inches of ice that came in like 30 minutes, shut down an entire city for 24 hours because we weren't prepared and we weren't ready for it. I said, that is very unfair to do to both the locals who live here and those who are flying into town away from their homes and families and pets and children to come to Atlanta to get stranded. And oh God, I hate her so much, y'all. I can't even begin to express how much I dislike this woman. But anyway, then she starts trying to lecture me on how, um, well, we've operated before in crisis and we were open during that situation. And, we don't just stop working when things get difficult. And I said, yeah, and well, maybe you should. Maybe you should try that more often. Maybe people would stop quitting as much as they do because y'all are psychopaths. You will sit up here and you will try to go forward with your plan when we actually have the option of just delaying it by a week or two. It's not that critical. We're not working in a field that is so mission critical that if we don't pull it off, bad things will happen. We're talking about a corporate training and development class. Like, get real, get serious. Yes, playing chicken, absolutely. Playing chicken with the weather. That's what she likes to do. I'm using that too, by the way. I'm gonna say I find that you like to play chicken a lot. I'm gonna say it all to her, right to her face. Um, but we're not talking about anything mission critical here, guys. We're talking about a corporate training and development class that truly could be hosted virtually if we really want to keep it real with each other. It could be a virtual class, but they love to get people in the same room. Okay. So it's not that serious. We can delay it by a week. I'm sure they would appreciate it. I'm sure they would appreciate you pushing the class back. Postponing is the word I'm looking for. Postponing the class by 1 week versus having them come out here and getting stranded at the Atlanta airport because they can't leave because there's ice and snow all over the ground. Well, what ended up happening was they totally disregarded what I said and decided they were going to go forward with the class anyway, right? Well, guess what ended up happening? Mother Nature came through and said, nah. And the storm was so bad that several airports had canceled dozens and not hundreds of flights. So half the people who were supposed to fly in for this class couldn't. Anyway, we ended up having to postpone the class anyway because the airport wouldn't even fly them here. So she had to eat crow. She never admitted to it, obviously. She never apologized to me and said, you know what, you were right. Never. We just pushed the class back, like I think 2 weeks, and then we did it, and then we just pretended like it never happened. She's a psychopathic abuser, guys. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. I don't want to get sidetracked on that, but she's a lunatic. And the only thing I will say is this: she's the type of lunatic who would like punch the wall in the house and leave a hole in the wall, and then the next morning ask you like what you want for breakfast. Like, hey, honey, do you want oatmeal this morning? And it's like, excuse me, do you want oatmeal? No, I don't want oatmeal. I want to talk about that hole you punched in the wall last night. Oh, that's behind us now. Do you want orange juice or not? That's the type of person that she is. Okay. But anyway, I don't trust her survival instincts. I really, really don't. She'll do it no matter what. She told me that when the hit back in 2020, you know what I'm talking about, when that hit back in 2020, she told me that she still, even though they had closed down her location and told them all to work from home, that she still got up in the morning, put on her clothes, and drove into the office. Because we have offices kind of like around the country. And I said, why? And she goes, because I just wanted to be there. I just wanted to show that, I wasn't going to let the slow me down. And I was new and I just wanted to meet people and be around people. And I just wanted to be, I said, even though them people told you to work from home. She said, yes, I just wanted to show that I'm still here and no is going to slow me down. And I'm just going to I want to say, you're a psychopath, girl. You're a nut. You're a fucking lunatic. Okay. Yes, she's impervious to common sense. She's a nutcase. Okay. A complete nut. All right. So I say all that to say and to give backstory on what I'm getting ready to share with you now, which some of you may have heard of. So, very similar situation, very similar. When Helene was approaching, and these officials were telling these people, hey, evacuate, get out, get to higher ground, blah, 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 blah. There was a plant in Tennessee that would not allow their workers to leave. And as a result, I've heard 11 and I've also heard 6. It doesn't matter, even if it was just one. At minimum, 6 people died, maximum 11 of these employees died because their employer would not let them leave. Okay. And that is where all that backstory is coming from, because I want so badly for everyone to lose the fear of their employer. I want you to lose the fear so bad. These people do not own you. They do not care about you. They will replace you in 2 seconds. They will lay you off in 5 seconds. Like, your life is so much more precious and so much more valuable than any job. Okay. And I understand, trust me, nobody understands more how important it is to have money coming in. Okay. I get it. It's very important. It is our lifeblood. I get that. Okay. However, what good is money if you're not here anymore? What good is money if you're not alive to even spend it? What good is money in that case? So, when people talk about preparedness and being preppers and things of that nature, I also want you to remember to prepare your finances so you can always walk away if you need to. Or if you leave and they fire you or let you go because you walked out, that's fine. I have 2 months worth of savings, 3 months worth of savings, 6 months worth of savings. I'll just be looking for another job because my life is more important, and it is, and it always will be. And don't let these people convince you otherwise, because these people, and I'm not blaming them. Trust me when I tell you, I'm not blaming them, because I understand the fear and the necessity of a job. But these people are no longer here because they were so afraid of their employer. I would have told that employer to fuck off. I'm out. Goodbye. Do what you got to do. Deuces. All right. So let me just read a little bit of this. The last time Elias Ibarra Mendoza heard his wife's voice, she was pleading for his help. Tell my kids that I love them very much and I won't be able to answer your calls anymore because the phone will get wet, she told him. He never heard from his wife of 38 years again. The 56-year-old grandmother was one of 11 Tennessee plastics plant workers swept away by Hurricane Helene's deadly floodwaters after they tried to leave the facility. Only 5 were rescued. 4 people who worked at the Impact Plastics plant in Irwin are still missing, and 2 have been confirmed dead. Apparently, that number is up to 6. Families of the victims and Impact Plastics workers are outraged, demanding answers about why, they say, employees were made to work during extreme weather conditions. And some were told that they couldn't leave as warnings of heavy rainfall in the flood-prone area poured in. Impact Plastics has forcefully denied those claims, saying late Thursday the allegations are false and no employee was stopped from leaving. 2 state investigations are unfolding in the tragedy as employees, victims' families, and company owners offer differing accounts of the hour before floodwaters overtook the area. Okay? So, just to recap, these individuals were working at a plant. They started getting alerts and getting notified that, a situation was building up outside of the plant. They tried to leave, and allegedly the owners wouldn't let them go. And now anywhere between 6 to 11 of them are no longer with us anymore. Okay. And it's so sad, and it makes me think of that factory in, was it another Tennessee factory, the Amazon factory that got hit by a tornado? Something like that? Like, it's so sad to me, y'all, because I understand the fear. Like, it wasn't easy for me to tell my boss on a day that I was supposed to drive into the office, "Hey, I'm actually not coming because there's a hurricane on the way." And yeah, sure, it's not due in till early Friday morning and it's Thursday, but I don't know. It seems important to me to not be out on the highways right now and to stand up for myself in that way. It's very scary. It's frightening. Okay. But I did it. And I hope that this inspires some of you to do the same if you find yourself in a similar situation. Okay. To hell with these people. They don't care about you. They have no survival instincts. All they think about is work, 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 because they have no life. They are inflexible. They lack creativity to a morbid degree, and they would just as soon have you die in a flood than ever let you go and have an ounce of your life back. Thank you, Mark, for the super chat. I appreciate it so much. So very much. I appreciate you. So thank you for representing Atlanta. We need voices like you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I do my best. They would just as soon see you die in a flood before they ever let you go home 5 minutes early. Okay. And excuse me. I've said this before somewhere on another channel, but I really hate it when people die at work. I don't like that. I don't think that's how our final moments should be spent. But it especially pisses me off when people die under circumstances like these, where their instinct was telling them, leave, get out, get out, get out. But their boss, some psychopath with control freak issues, told them, no, you can't go. And and they end up losing their life as a result. I saw a tweet that said companies that do this should be held criminally liable, and I can't agree more. But I also saw another tweet that I want to share with you guys. Excuse me. Oh, here it is right here. I pulled it up. It says, if you're a private employer and you force employees to work during a state of emergency and they get hurt or killed, you need to be held criminally liable. Not just a wrongful death lawsuit that insurance pays for, jail time, negligent effing homicide. And I could not agree more. You need to be held accountable for this. If the state has declared a state of emergency, you should tell your employees, hey, come to a logical, rational stopping point, because there are some things that, like, some processes, if they're going, you can't just walk away from them because they'll explode or catch fire or whatever. So make the machine stop, push the button, make the machine stop, get out of here. And then even if it gets worse, just get out of here. Forget the machine. Like, we all got to get out of here so we don't die. You know what I mean? But do not let these people, God, don't let these people dictate your safety to you, man. Please don't. Like, it's so frustrating to me. Okay. Let me see what this video is really quick. Impact passed away after being told they would be fired if they left during the storm. Oh, I saw this earlier. This guy basically said that by the time they let them leave, the water was already rising. And so they tried to leave, but they couldn't get out their normal way. So they had to turn around and come back. But by then, the water was like even higher. So it started to sweep some of them away. And y'all, please don't let these people make life or death decisions for you, because they have no survival instinct. The only survival instinct they have is towards their bottom line and their profit margin. That's it. But your actual life, they don't care. They claim to care, they don't care. National Mental Health Day was like a day or 2 ago or something, and I made a tweet that said, "It's amazing to me how they'll claim to care so much about mental health, and they will do absolutely everything for you except change the working conditions that make your mental health poor," basically. So it's like, "Hey, you said you care about mental health. This job is stressing me out for this particular reason. Can we change this one thing and then my mental health will be better?" And they're like, "No." But here's an employee assistance program. Hey, Naima, here's an employee assistance program. You can get 6 free therapy sessions. Will that help? It's like, nah, actually, I need this psychotic boss of mine to leave me alone. Can you talk to her and make her less psychotic? No. But you can talk to a therapist about it. Like, the jig is up, y'all. We're seeing right through you guys. We see right through you. We like I'm so tired of the gaslighting. I'm so tired of the fakery. I'm tired of these people. I'm tired of these people, y'all. Because this has just been going on for so long. And I'm actually thinking about doing a show on PTE. I should do it on Pettynomics, but whatever. Because I want people to know what's actually happening in these offices. I need people to know that very little work is getting done, but I need them to know why very little work is getting done. And that's part of the reason. Most of the people in charge don't tell the truth. They've learned to lie as a way of life. So lying is their first instinct. Truth telling is almost like the greatest sin that you can commit in these workplaces. So that's why nothing can get done really. And also on top of all that, they're lazy. So it's almost like nothing can get done because no one is in these offices being real. But we'll talk about that another day, right? But anyway, in the midst of all this, I came across this post and I wanted to share it with you guys, okay? And it says, "Just walk out. You can leave." Chat says, "I'm tired of them too, girl." I am tired of these people. Like at a soul level, I'm exhausted by them. I literally cannot take it anymore. I can't take it. But we'll talk about that another day. Just walk out. You can leave. Wildfire smoke, hurricane, flooding, no heat, the power's out, no water, tornado warnings, the AC is broken, weird fumes, climate sucks, hit the bricks, don't die at work. And I know it's not meant to be funny. This is actually not meant to be funny, but when you say things like hit the bricks, it makes me laugh, okay? But the message behind this is serious, and it's actually an organization called Emergency Workplace Organizing, and their handle is at Organized Workers. And the message that they tagged this to was, "No one can make you stay in an unsafe work site. Close up and walk out with your coworkers until management or nature fixes the problem. Contact us for help." So this is like an organization, excuse me, who deals with this very issue. So, and I love it because it's a reminder that we are human beings. We are not robots. I know they're trying to release these little Tesla robots. I've seen them. And until they can get them up and running good, they still have to use humans. We are human beings. You don't have to breathe wildfire smoke. You don't have to let a hurricane bear down on you. You don't have to endure flooding. You don't have to freeze to death because there's no heat. You don't have to sweat it out because there's no power. You don't have to be in unsanitary conditions where you can't wash your hands or flush toilets because there's no water. You don't have to sit and hope for the best during a tornado. You don't have to sweat it out because the AC is broken. You don't have to breathe weird fumes. You can leave, walk out, just walk out. You can leave and you should leave because no job is worth your life. Do not die at work. You see what happened with the union workers with the port strike. Everyone was freaking out because we thought the ports were getting ready to be really jammed up. And within what, 2 or 3 days, those workers got what they wanted and what they needed. Like, it is time for Babylon to fall. And I think this is why Babylon is falling, because it has been under the care, custody, and control of complete lunatics for far too long. For far too long. And for far too long, people have thought they didn't have the power to stand up to these people. But there is strength in numbers, and they can't do anything without us. Even the robots, y'all, even when they bring in the robots, understand that those robots have to be programmed by a human being, and they have to be maintained by human beings. They are not autonomous creatures. They are machines that still have to be built and maintained by human beings. Try as they might, you are not going to factor the human being out of this equation. You're just not. And AI is already eating itself, from what I understand. So it's not going to last much longer. I give AI, this whole AI craze, like another 2 or 3 years, and it'll be over. Because once again, because it's actually relying on human beings. It's not free thinking. That's their greatest fear, actually, that AI will become sentient. It can't. It doesn't have a soul. And for it to be truly remarkably intelligent, it would have to be programmed by a remarkably intelligent person. And while these individuals in tech might know how to build the machinery, most of them are actually lacking like that empathetic, compassionate soul that makes a human being a human. So they cannot program that into the robot because they don't have it themselves. You can't imagine what you don't see or what you don't know. Like you can't program something into a robot that you don't even have yourself and don't believe exists. So I wouldn't worry too much. It's going to reach a fever pitch, it's going to get kind of scary, and then it's going to die out. All right? Um So this is a powerful reminder. Take a screenshot if you need to. Please don't let these people have you up and at work dying. Okay? Like, I've been trying to get in good with my facilities manager, basically the person who operates the building itself, and it concerns himself with like AC, plumbing, facilities, heat. I'm trying to get in good with them because the reason I want to get in good with them is because I need them to tell me when they're planning on having things like fire drills. Because I'm like, look, can you just text me and say, hey, hang back like 15 minutes. We're about to do a fire drill. Okay? Because I don't want to, I don't even want to play practice this with you. If this building is burning down, I'm out of here. Okay? I'm leaving. I need y'all to know that. I might even leave if a tornado is coming. Now, some of you might say, PTE, that's really dumb. If you're inside of a building and you're safe in a stairwell, why would you get out into your car and take off? And my response to you would be, you don't know me very well. Because my thing is, I don't want to die at work with you guys. Love you, but I don't want to die next to you. Like, if I'm going out, I'm trying to go out on the highway where my car just gets scooped up, tossed about, and thrown somewhere. Fine. Okay. At least she tried to make it home. Listen, if y'all ever catch wind that a tornado was coming and they put my building on lockdown and I fled out the back door, got into my car and tried to make it home, but didn't, I don't want y'all to feel sad about that. I want y'all to applaud that. I want y'all to clap and say, you know what? At least that girl tried to make it home. She tried. She wasn't playing. PTE, you gave it your best shot, girl. You tried to make it home. Because I just refuse to die next to somebody I don't like. You understand what I'm saying? Like, what if my boss comes to town that week and a tornado is coming? I'm not going to die next to her. I would fight her all the way up to heaven or wherever we're going. My soul would fight her. Like we might come back to life because I would be fighting her so hard in that like little window right after you die, like that little grace period before you go, I guess, into the light or wherever. I would be fighting her. We'd be scrapping. And she would be like, "Why are you doing this? We're dead." I'm saying, "Exactly, stupid bitch." And just start just pulling her hair, whatever little spiritual hair, cords. I'm fighting everything. Whatever I can fight on her, I'm fighting her. I'm like, "See, this is your fault. This is your fault. Okay? I'm fighting her. I'm chasing her. I'm following her. I would not let her rest. Okay? I just wouldn't. I just couldn't let her rest. There's just no way. We would come back to life. They'd be like, "Well, we thought these two were dead, but they actually sprang back to life." She's like, "Yeah, because she was fighting me. She was fighting my soul. I sure was." I'm not playing. I would fight her all the way to the pearly gates. And they would say, "Now, PTE, this is not how you show up to the pearly gates. This is not how you gain admission." I'll say, "I don't care. I'm fighting her. I'm dragging her back down. We might float all the way up to the pearly gates. I'm grabbing that little thin spiritual hair and I'm dragging her back down. I'm not through with you. You thought you were going to escape that easy? No, ma'am. No mercy." Y'all just as crazy as me. Y'all are just as crazy as me, okay? But I'm not playing. I'd rather die alone in my car on the highway than die next to somebody I actually don't like. Okay? And I mean that. So, what else? Oh, I just wanted to share a few like far out theories really quick, and then we'll get out of here. All right. So, we are on a deeper PTE. Here we allow ourselves to explore the far out, the unproven, the religious, and the spiritual. The majority of this channel's content is based in opinion and speculation, not necessarily facts. Please do your own research and come to your own fact based conclusions. Okay. We respect science over here. We just have questions. All right. So, here are a few of my theories on all this weather stuff and what's going on or whatever. And then we'll get out of here. All right. So, here's my first theory, y'all, regarding all this flooding, because it's not just flooding here, it's flooding like everywhere. And it's kind of weird. So, here's my first far out there theory. My theory is that, unfortunately, our water table is full. Now, let's see if we can get a picture of a water table real quick. A little quick illustration, so you guys will know what I'm talking about. So, let's see. All this stuff is very sciencey and very, very kind of above my pay grade, which is why I put my disclaimer up because we respect science. But in topography, I believe it's called, there's something called a water table. And essentially, it is the water that is underground. And in theory, this water is supposed to like cycle itself out. And it's all part of the system, right? Let me see if there's a better picture. Um, this kind of explains what I'm trying to say a little bit. So you have the ocean, then you have fresh groundwater, then there's an aquifer, and then like you can either pump it out with a well or like it comes up through rivers and streams and creeks and whatnot. Okay. All that fancy stuff. What I'm trying to say is, I think it's almost like our water table is full. So there's too much water underground for any of this to matter. So it rains, the runoff goes into the river. The river, I guess, goes to the aquifer. I don't know. All I know is that there's water underneath us. And I personally am just starting to believe that the water table is full. So the water can't go anywhere because the places that it would normally go are full, is what I'm trying to say. And again, this is just my far out theory. This is not necessarily science based. These are just the crazy things that I think about. Okay. The water doesn't have anywhere to go. And I think we often forget that here on planet Earth, we are surrounded by water on all sides. Pretty much no matter where you live on the top of an underground, excuse me, you live on the top of an underwater mountain, basically. So if you drained all the water, all the oceans and everything, you would see that we just sit on top of a very, very large mountain that is rooted at the base of the ocean. And it just sticks up, 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 up and pops out the top. And that's what we live on. But we're surrounded by water nonetheless. Okay. I say all that to say, I think the water table is full. There's too much water in the system and it has nowhere to go. And that's kind of a problem. So that's one of my far out there theories. Okay. And it's problematic because there's really nothing to stop the water from continuously rising. Okay. So that's one of my theories. Another theory that I have that I think might actually be true is y'all know that we have allegedly a second moon in our personal solar system right now, right? Apparently it's like, I guess, an asteroid or a comet or something that is stuck. It is going to be stuck throughout the month of October. And then it's going to depart, I guess. I'm wondering, like, is that second moon, which I haven't seen yet, by the way, is it wreaking havoc on our Earth and our magnetism or whatever, and like impacting the moon's tides and the way it pulls the tide forward and back? Is this extra solar body disrupting everything? I really wonder. And there's another asteroid out there. So there's like a second moon out there, what they're calling the second moon. And then there's an asteroid that is apparently, or excuse me, it's a comet. And apparently it's visible in certain parts of the world around dusk and dawn. And I'm wondering, like, is that affecting our weather systems and things on Earth and making everything go crazy, right? There's that. Apparently, we recently got hit with solar flares from the sun, which is what caused the auroras. Did anyone see those? I saw them. Very strange, very cool, though. Beautiful. Like the one I saw was like pink. It was unbelievable. But apparent, and people could see them all over the world and all over the country. Red, green, pink, blue. I'm like, oh man, something is happening. Something is going on. But apparently those are the result of like solar flares and the particles from the sun interacting with the atmosphere or whatever. But anyway, what if all that stuff is impacting all these weather related events? I think about that. And then my final theory is that it's quite possible Mother Nature is just sick of us. Exactly. Chat says gravitational pull from the other moon. Yes. Or like a magnetic pole shift. Yes. Like things, y'all are laughing at spiritual hair. I'm grabbing her by that spiritual hair and I'm dragging her right back down to earth. Magnetic pole shift. Yes. Like it almost seems like our system is so finely tuned that if anything comes into it, it has the ability to disrupt things. So I'm really, really wondering about that. But then my final theory is, I think we forget also that the earth is a living organism, even though we don't tend to think of it as such, it is. And I wonder if she's just sick of us, if she's just tired of us and has the ability to cleanse herself of anything she doesn't want. I'm very curious. Or this is just the natural cause and effect of continuous abuse over many, many centuries, and she's just tired. Like, I am tired of y'all digging in me, cutting my trees down, polluting my air, destroying the water, and oh, I am so sick of you guys. I'm just going to shake you off. I'm just going to drown you. I don't know. But if the earth is alive, it's possible it has some degree of sentience, correct? So what if she's just tired of us, just sick of us? Chat says, wouldn't you be? Absolutely. Chat says the earth is shaking us off like fleas. Who could blame her? Like, we have more than abused this planet. And I think she might just be tired of us. Like, I'm over it. I'm getting rid of them all. I'm going to cover them in sand, mud, water, everything. Dry their food up, everything until I get rid of you. Almost like a self-cleansing organism. It's just something to think about. It's something to think about. But again, those are just my far out theories, not necessarily rooted in science, but also not necessarily rooted in science. Just something to think about. But with that, you guys, I have thoroughly enjoyed you all this evening. It's good to talk to you on this channel again. I'll try to be more active over here. Um, Stay safe out here. Please get prepared to whatever extent that you can. Even if you just have a little generator to where you can at least charge your cell phone, not a gas generator either, an electric generator, um, to where you can at least charge your cell phone. But of course, obviously, you're going to want to do more preps than that. There's tons of information out there on prepping. You don't have to spend a fortune, but have some kind of plan in place, because when I read through like FEMA's disaster preparedness stuff, the direct impression I get, what I feel like the subtext is look, it's getting crazy out here. And when shit goes down, we may not actually be able to even come help you. We may not be able to do anything for you because we're very disorganized. So you need to have some sort of life plan in place, because we probably aren't going to be able to come save you. And I think that's fair. I think it's better for them to tell us that up front than to find out on the back end. And I'll give you a perfect example before I close the show. This was probably like, oh my God, this may have been 10 years ago or more. I don't know. It was a while ago though. And I said to my dad, I said, Dad, we need to have a plan in place just in case the phones go down one day, the cell towers go down and we can't reach each other. We need to have some sort of plan in place. Like, should I stay here? Should I come to you? You come to me, we meet in the middle. And his response to me was, girl, them phones ain't going down. And I said, Dad, you don't know that. And he was like, well, the lines are buried underground for the most part. So them phones ain't going down. We'll be all right. And I was like, ugh. I was like, okay. And what happened when Helene hit? The cell towers went down. People haven't been able to reach their families. There are some people who are actually okay, but they can't get a phone call out because the cell phone towers are down. So the very thing that I told him happened, and I reminded him of that recently, and he was like, okay. Yeah, you're right. We do need to put a little plan in place. Just exactly. Prepare for anything. Because I wouldn't be the one freaking out. It would be him. If something went down and the cell phone towers went down and he couldn't get a hold of me, he's going to be the one freaking out. I ain't freaked out. I'm sitting here ready to turn into a zombie as a result of this chemical chlorine gas. I don't care. It's him who's going to have a panic attack. This is for you, sir. So I think that's what he was talking about, where it says chat says landlines are reliable, I believe. Well, see, okay. I think you're right. But if my cell phone can't make a phone call to the landline, then, or the landline can't call out to me, then they're useless. They're just about useless. But at least I got him thinking about it again. Like, see, people couldn't call. They couldn't do anything. No internet, no phone, nothing. Okay, you're right. Yeah, exactly. This is for your mental health, sir, not mine. But anyway, y'all, stay safe. Do whatever you can to have whatever type of preparation that you can, including a little bit of cash money on you, because apparently, like up in the Carolinas and stuff, some gas stations have opened back up, but they're only doing cash transactions because they can't process anything electronic because they don't really have any power or any internet. So make sure you always keep a little cash on you of some kind. Um, Generator, something to charge things with. Food is obvious, but I don't know. I just want y'all to be safe as possible. Don't rely on these people. They don't know what they're doing. They're very disorganized, okay? All they do is sit in offices and complain that people want to work from home and not drive in when a hurricane is coming. But anyway, um, be safe out here, y'all. For those of you who are affected by all this, I hope you recover soon. For those of you who are giving, make sure you're giving to authentic and reliable charitable organizations who you can trust. And God bless those of you who are actually going out there in person and trying to do whatever you can, okay? Because I'm sure it's appreciated. Because those people's lives have been turned upside down. They'll never be the same. There's no recovering from this, not in this lifetime. So be safe out here, you guys. Trust your gut instinct. If your boss is giving you a hard time, just leave. Just leave, look at them, say, do what you got to do, and walk out. They don't own you. You're not slaves. Okay. And with that, my dear friends, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Be safe out here, and we will get together again soon, either over here or over on Permission to Exist. Okay. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.